Well, hello then, I do hope you're all well. Now this is absolutely hilarious. Well, I thought it was hilarious anyway. But after Chris Bryant had our Foreign Secretary, James Cleverly, looking very shifty and nervous, now he must have thought he was going to get an easy ride from Labour MP Liam Byrne. But he carried on with the Russian sanctions, didn't he? And unfortunately, our James Cleverly was sadly mistaken. And Liam Byrne's final comment was quite funny.
Thanks, Chair. I just want to follow up Chris's questions on sanctions just very briefly, because you'll know that Bill Browder was in front of the Economic Crime Committee 2 weeks ago giving evidence on what's actually quite a weak bill that is before the House. But he wanted to make the point, and this was the phrase that he used, he said it was shameful was the word that he used, that the UK has not had any prosecutions for money laundering, despite our country being the epicentre of the Russian laundromat, the Troika laundromat, and the Azerbaijan laundromat. We've got UK corporate structures being used to launder billions of pounds, which Catherine Belton has been really clear has enabled Putin to fund the war in Ukraine. Can you just perhaps tell us what you're doing to strengthen HMG's capacity to deliver these prosecutions?
Well, look, we do take illicit finance very, very seriously.
So seriously, we've not prosecuted anyone?
When I have conversations internationally, we do speak about the need to collectively crack down on illicit finance. The bill, we are making legislative, or we have made legislative changes to toughen our domestic position. And I do speak, as I say, regularly with international interlocutors, particularly those that have significant financial services sectors within their jurisdictions, about our joint working on this. So, I mean, ultimately, the prosecutions in this area is not something that's led by the Foreign Office, but ultimately, as with so many bits of government work, the Foreign Office has a keen interest, and we work with our international friends and allies about cracking down on illicit finance.
Would you agree that Bill Browder is right, that it's shameful we've had no prosecutions for money laundering?
Well, of course we would. I mean, when did the legislation come in? It was
2018.
2018. These are often long and complicated cases, and of course we would want to see people brought to justice, and we will do whatever we can do as the FCDO to support prosecutions. Of course we want to see people brought to justice around this kind of stuff.
Okay. When we saw President Zelensky earlier in the year, he set out 5 core aims that the Ukrainian state was pursuing. So, safe skies above Ukraine, 100% decolonisation of Ukraine, so the complete elimination of Russian forces from the territory, prosecution of Russia for the crime of aggression, prosecution for individual war crimes against those who have perpetrated those crimes, and obviously exchange of prisoners and return of citizens. Is there any one of those 5 objectives that you would demur from, any of those 5 that you would disagree with?
Well, ultimately, as I said in response to the previous question, I mean, ultimately, it is for the Ukrainians to decide under what circumstances and under what conditions they would want to have a peace settlement. Our job as an international friend is to ensure that they can continue to defend themselves against Russian aggressions. They continue to push back Russian forces, and the Prime Minister has made it absolutely clear that our commitment to the Ukrainians is unwavering. But ultimately, it's for the Ukrainians to decide under what circumstances they would sue for peace.
So there's no one of those 5 items that you would encourage the Ukrainians to drop?
As I say, I think it would be wrong for a third country to start saying to Ukraine what they should or shouldn't accept in a peace settlement. It's for them. They're the ones that are defending their country. As I say, they're the ones that have lost their people in defending their nation, and it's going to be their decision.
So you said at UNGA that there should be no impunity for Putin's hostility. Those were the precise words that you used. Isn't it now time that we should think about prescribing the United Party of Russia in the way that we prescribe political organisations like Hamas?
Well, I think there are grounds to look at wider prescriptions, you will know that, and I've said this a number of times at the dispatch box, we don't speculate in public about future prescriptions and designations, but
I guess I'm not asking you to speculate about it. I'm asking you to get on with it. Is that something that you can do?
Well, that would me answering that question would be speculating about future designation, wouldn't it?
So it's not impossible.
It's not impossible, no.
What about designating Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism? We've heard on this committee that we have obviously designated Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism since 1983, and Russia is providing sanctuary for the Russian imperial movement, which is a terrorist group so designated by the United States. Shouldn't we take that step now of designating Russia as a terrorist state?
Well, as I say, in the same way, in answer to the previous questions, I'm not going to speculate about future designations, but the point is what we will always do is look to make sure that we hamper Russia's ability to wage war in Ukraine. We've been doing that through our sanctions work. We have made sure that we continue to support the Ukrainians as they defend themselves. And we have also made sure, and I had meetings with the Chief Prosecutor of the ICC, Karim Khan, not very long ago, a few weeks ago, about ensuring that there is a framework to bring to justice the perpetrators of war crimes and human rights violations. And we will continue to ensure that there is the preservation of evidence and all the things that need to happen in order to facilitate future criminal actions against those people that
Why wouldn't we designate Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism now? I mean, surely the evidence is there.
Well, as I say, the priority of the UK government is to hamper their ability to wage war in Ukraine. That's where our focus is. That's where we will continue focus because that's what we need to achieve in the short term. In terms of let's say future designations, we don't speculate, and it is, I know, frustrating to the committee and sometimes frustrating to the observers that is our position. But nevertheless, we will always consider what is the best way of bringing about our strategic aims. And our strategic aims at the moment is hampering Russia's ability to wage war in Ukraine and supporting the Ukrainians as they defend themselves.
Well, look, I think it looks weak not taking these steps to prescribe the United Party of Russia or designating Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism. But let me just pick you up then on that last answer, because you said it's our business to supply Ukraine with what they need to win. Now that Kherson has fallen after the brave operations of the last week or two, it now means Crimea is in the crosshairs and the battle for the Black Sea is now in sight. But Ukraine could actually hit Russian Navy forces now in Crimea if we supplied Ukraine with missiles that can be fired from HIMARS with a range of 300 kilometres. Why are we not now supplying Ukraine with the munitions they need in order to take out Russian Navy forces in Sevastopol that are currently capable of firing caliber cruise missiles back into Ukraine?
Well, throughout this conflict, we and other international partners have liaised with the Ukrainians about what equipment they need, and through this conflict, their requirement has evolved. At the start, during the assault on Kyiv, for example, Javelin and NLAWs were very much the weapons that they required. As they pushed the Russian forces back and we saw a move towards attacks from the air, the requirement was for air defence systems, both ground-based air defence systems and air-to-air air defence missiles, which we have also provided. We will continue to liaise with the Ukrainians about what equipment they require and how best we can help. And I mean, we, both as the UK and as the wider international community, what we can do to help them with those things. That will always be an ongoing conversation.
We're not ruling out supplying ATACMS at this stage.
Well, as I say, our support to the Ukrainians is always done in in cooperation with them and coordination with our allies.
Okay, but we're not ruling it out. That's progress. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Chair.
And now I have to say, Liam Byrne's final sarcastic comment made me chuckle. But when our chuckling Liam Byrne said, "I just want you to get on with it," I practically nearly fell off my seat. And if looks could kill, because you could tell our walking oxymoron, James Cleverly, well, I call him the walking oxymoron, he wasn't too happy, was he? You could tell through that grimace. If looks could kill, it was written all over his face. But what do you guys think? Leave your comments below, and until the next time, I shall leave the video here and just take care. You know what I mean.